Removing the front fender from a second generation VW Tiguan is not that hard if you know how to do it. As you can see, this is a facelifted model. These were made from late 2020, but on the older before facelift models, the process is almost the same. First you have to remove the wheel, so find the lifting point. Put the jack under it. Remove the wheel bolt covers if you got any. There is a special tool for this in the trunk of the car. Loosen the wheel bolts. Lift the car completely. Remove the wheel bolts and remove the wheel. Easy stuff. Next you will have to remove all the bolts which are holding the plastic wheel well liner in place and remove it, obviously. There are 7 bolts on the side of the wheel well liner. You will need a Torx T25 bit for this. And there are 3 other bolts on the inside part, so remove these as well. But this is not all, since there are more bolts under the front part of the wheel well liner. Here you have to remove another 7 bolts. Now, this part is already pretty loose, but you have to remove another 2 bolts under the rear part of the wheel well liner. And just now it's completely loose, and you can remove it gradually. Some unclipping, some wiggling, and it's out. As you can see, there is even a small piece of sound deadening material on it from the factory, but let's move on. The next step is to remove the plastic fender trim, which is held in place by 2 types of plastic clips. In the front, it is attached by these bigger arrow type clips or tabs, which you simply squeeze by some pliers and push them out. Further, the trim is attached by these smaller white plastic clips, which you also have to squeeze by some pliers and push them out, but these are a bit harder to squeeze. On the fender itself, these white plastic clips are covered with this kind of a rubber cover, so you will have to squeeze them through this cover, which is again a bit harder. The lower part of this trim is additionally attached or glued with a small piece of double-sided tape, so use a bit of force. By the way, there is another white clip in this area as well. And here is the removed trim in all its glory. As you can see, there are 4 black easily removable clips or tabs on the front part and 8 white, a bit harder to remove clips on the rest of the trim. After this you have to remove the screw on the side of the fender. For this you will need a Torx T30 bit. Next you have to unclip the upper part of the fender. Just push it up a bit and pull it out. With this you will get enough space to remove the 2 black screws of this black plastic bracket, which is behind the fender. To remove them you will again need the Torx T30 bit. Next, remove also the 2 plastic nuts on this plastic bracket. After this you have to remove this whole bracket, which is still held in place pretty firmly. I decided to use some plastic tool and push the bracket down. A bit of wiggling and prying and the bracket pops out. However, this seemed a bit forced, so it is possible that it would go easier with removing the bolts on the other small metallic bracket, which is behind this bigger bracket. To remove these two bolts you will again need a Torx T30 bit. If you would by some chance break this plastic bracket, then don't worry, since you can buy a new one and it's not that expensive either. With the bracket removed, you will see two metallic studs with nuts, which you have to remove, obviously. These are 10mm nuts. After this you can move to the rear side of the fender. Here the situation is pretty straightforward, so remove the foam insulation and remove the three 10mm bolts. Next, move to the upper part of the fender and remove the clearly visible three 10mm bolts. Then lift the lower part of the windshield rubber weather strip. Usually this small metallic piece stays in place, but now it decided to explore the outside world. But anyway. Under this weather strip there is an 8mm bolt, which you don't have to remove completely, just unbolt it enough to make the fender loose. And finally, the last bolt you have to remove is on the upper side of the fender under the A-pillar. This is again a 10mm bolt. And now you can carefully, or not that carefully, remove the whole fender.